The Boardman-Charlevoix watershed, renowned for its stunning landscapes, lush forests, sparkling lakes, and fertile soils, is a popular destination for recreational activities like golf and agritourism. However, the private ownership supporting these industries has ironically led to the overuse, fragmentation, and ecological degradation of the watershed's resources. Historically, humans have believed that private ownership is necessary to safeguard these resources, thinking that nature would be left unprotected and vulnerable to overuse without ownership. Realistically, the rush to claim and profit from the watershed's resources has led to overuse, fragmentation, and a loss of broader ecological and social cohesion. Overall, because private property is a piecemeal, incremental approach, our vision of property as an individual responsibility rather than a social relationship limits our ability to address broader social and ecological issues at hand.
The Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians, one of the two federally recognized tribes in the watershed, has emerged as a powerful voice for ecological change, advocating for a deeper, more sustainable relationship with the land through the rights of nature. Through their resolution, they recognize the rights of nature to exist, flourish, and evolve, alongside humanity's responsibility to protect it. It is not just a symbolic statement, it served as a catalyst, inspiring the development of more specific documents to acknowledge the rights of key entities, forests, native species, and the act of foraging. But for these rights of nature to be upheld, it calls for reimagining the relationship between humans and the natural world and moving beyond the dichotomy. These resolutions establish that nature must be recognized not merely as a resource, but as a living system with intrinsic rights that deserve respect and protection. The forest and native species are our family. This means we have to reframe our understanding of private property for our brothers and sisters.
To ensure that the rights of nature are more than dusty documents, 3 interventions, retreat, reclaim, and reconcile, are proposed as practical pathways for translating these resolutions into something tangible. Retreat is about diminishing human influence and the physical footprint we impose on the environment. It is characterized by policies like the transfer of development rights, urban growth boundaries, utility service areas, and programs that de-emphasize the personal vehicle, incrementally removing private property and the infrastructure that supports it. The result would be densified, mixed-use urban areas. The next intervention, reclaim, is the counterpart to retreat and focuses on restoring rights, voices, and spaces previously lost or neglected. It is executed through land banks, riparian buffers, reforestation, and rewilding. Programs and representative councils focus on giving voices to historically marginalized communities and beings. Reconcile means restoring compatibility not just between humans and nature, but also among human communities. This intervention centers on permaculture, regenerative design practices, and closed-loop systems, moving from a top-down approach to a lateral one that values commoning, co-design, and co-production.
The watershed's transformation is not linear or instantaneous. It's an incremental process. To simplify the evolution of the watershed, it can be generalized into 5 phases that span from the current private property system to the final stage, the common property system. The private property system is characterized by a net of intricately webbed roadways that strangles the land and large exclusive paths that dice into pieces to be sold for profit. Every piece of watershed is owned and the greater than human is neglected. Phase 1 of the evolution begins slowly. Power is reclaimed through the passage of rights of nature resolutions and the subsequent formation of representative councils for forest and native species. Foraging is legalized on all land within the watershed, regardless of ownership. These areas defragment via retreat. In Phase 2, significant retreat occurs within forested areas and around small water bodies, leaving some private property communized. Some wildland is reclaimed through large-scale rewilding efforts by people and the government, similar to those in Michigan during the 1930s. Due to significant retreat, some native species can reclaim historic habitat grounds. Phase 3 is marked by the densification of urban areas, which due to retreat of essential infrastructure has made urban sprawl inconvenient. The inconveniences of outsourcing makes reconciliation palatable. Urbanized areas turn into closed-loop system and planning and design solidify as a lateral approach. In the final common property system, through ongoing efforts of retreat, reclaim, and reconcile, there is large-scale collective ownership and shared management of resources. While this system is not perfectly common, private property has been de-emphasized and the priority has been placed upon the social and cultural aspects of the watershed rather than its economic value.
To bring this vision to life, consider how these phases play out on a more localized scale, such as in the city of Charlevoix, which exhibits land characteristics similar to the rest of the watershed. Wildland and agriculture, tourist extraction, residential shoreline, urbanized shoreline, and finally mineral extraction. Like the rest of the watershed, the city is mostly private property except for parks. The area is heavily extracted through recreational and natural resources. In Phase 1 of the watershed evolution, Charlevoix's larger land parcels begin to be commonized through the legalization of foraging and incentive programs. Within the city, empty lots are converted into urban agriculture and parks. In Phase 2, roadways that have lost value due to retreat begin to be decommissioned. Some property owners choose to merge land as a collective effort to care for it, while others may keep their original parcel lines. In Phase 3, the city begins to densify as the transfer of development rights becomes more common due to development pressures. Mineral extraction has decreased as local sourcing, regenerative design, and closed-loop systems become more prominent. Forests reclaim much of their historic grounds, and native species begin to see defragmented habitat. In the common property system, the city has significantly densified and urban agriculture has become more common due to convenience and reliance on closed-loop systems. The system is not entirely common, as some choose to keep their private property. However, the human footprint no longer takes up the whole area and instead takes up a fraction of what it once did.
This transformation isn't just about preserving landscape or mitigating ecological harm. It's about reimagining what prosperity means. It calls us to value connection over extraction, stewardship over ownership, and regeneration over consumption. By prioritizing the social and cultural dimensions of the watershed, we can create a system where economic activity supports rather than exploits, and where human and non-human communities thrive together. But how might we spark this change? It begins with a shift in mindset, questioning long-held assumptions about ownership, consumption, and progress. By amplifying initiatives like the Rights of Nature resolutions, fostering inclusive spaces for co-design, and empowering local voices, we can catalyze a ripple effect of awareness and action. Together, we can transform the watershed into a living example of harmony, where the boundaries between humans and nature dissolve into a vibrant, interconnected whole.